Hello, everyone. The date is Friday, March 14th, and this is the meeting of the Election Law Subcommittee on Crossover Friday. We have three bills before us to discuss this afternoon, and we will start with House Bill 906, Campaign Finance, Political Organizations, Disclosures on Solicitations, the Stop Scam Packs Act. And this bill does have amendments. Stan, if you can please talk to us about the bill and the amendments.
Sure. So House Bill 906 requires entities making independent expenditures in campaigns to disclose on a fundraising solicitation that the solicitation is not approved by a candidate. And the amendments require entities making independent expenditures to disclose on a fundraising solicitation the 5 largest recipients of expenditures made by the entity in the preceding calendar quarter and the amount received by each recipient.
Thank you, Stan. I understand this bill passed the Senate unanimously already. Do the amendments put it in the same format that it passed the Senate?
I believe so. I'm not sure that the Senate's actually acted on it on the floor. Maybe Jared knows.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe just in
Not on
committee.
the, Madam Chair, not on the floor. It just came out of the committee, Triple E unanimously, and
Okay.
it is the same amendments.
Okay. I stand corrected. It passed Triple E unanimously and is on its way to the floor in the Senate, and it's in the same version. Any discussion about the bill or its amendments? Oh, Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, just trying to make sure I'm wrapping my brain around this bill. Can we take a little bit deeper dive into what the bill does and obviously being crossover weekend, was there anybody opposed to the bill in testimony?
Let me look at that real quick.
Sorry, Stan, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
That's all right. The only unfavorable was Mr. Lang, who you may remember from many hearings.
Yes, absolutely. Understood. All right, that answers all my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you. Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess my question is probably for Stan. Looking at the amendment, I'm a little bit confused on in the reprint on page 3, lines 10 through, or I'm sorry, 12 through 16, that paragraph D. So as this was originally introduced, it was focused on solicitations that appeared to be charitable in nature, but were actually political. And I'm a little bit confused about the revisions we're making here. Can you explain a little bit?
Yeah, I spoke with Delegate Plakovich-Carr about this, and as I understand it, basically there was a concern, and perhaps Jared can speak to this, but that this whole issue of sort of regulating purported charities is a little bit outside the scope of election law and campaign finance enforcement. And so it just the idea was to substitute this requirement of disclosing the 5 largest recipients of expenditures, so that there's some more transparency about that. So if you're making expenditures that are, not really related to the, not germane to the purpose of the entity, or perhaps even self-interested expenditures, that would have to be disclosed. And if you don't do that, you'd be in violation. But I don't know if Jared has anything to add.
Yes, sure. I'll take the first half, which was about the charity and moving it more towards political. But Stan had mentioned that part correctly about the 5, because these are independent expenditure entities that are trying to be, they're in the political arena. So their solicitations, the best example is the Ken Cuccinelli thing, which was they were saying, we're going to fundraise to support Ken Cuccinelli in making sure that his bid for governor succeeds. And all they did was just raise money for themselves. That wasn't a charitable purpose. They weren't going
Right.
around saying, we're raising money for a charity and then keeping
Okay.
money. These are political entities that are raising money based upon candidates independently and using it for themselves. So the scam charities are already handled outside of it. This is dealing with, political committees using candidates
Right.
and using them in a manner that is to benefit their
Yeah.
own personal.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Feldmark. That was an important clarification. I would like to entertain a motion on the amendments.
Move favorable. Second.
All right, the amendments have been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendments to House Bill 906, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? All right, House Bill 906 has been amended. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. HB 906 as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of House Bill 906, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it. House Bill 906 passes favorably as amended. On to the next bill. Let's take up House Bill 983, Local Boards of Election Language Assistance Program. There are amendments to this bill as well. The bill as amended creates a language assistance program that local boards of elections must participate in if SBE determines that there's a significant need for language assistance in a language other than English in the county. So SBE will make this determination based on census data, and they will contact the local boards and work with them to provide support and language assistance during early voting and on election day for a voter who needs assistance. As part of that local board's language assistance, a voter who needs language assistance has to have the option to communicate with an election judge by video or virtually. Signage must be posted in the designated language about the availability of language assistance and interpretation. And it also instructs the local boards, just those that are required to participate, that they make every effort to recruit bilingual judges, reasonable efforts to recruit bilingual judges as well. Stan, is there anything important that I have missed?
No, I don't think so. I would just add that, generally the amendments simplify and streamline the original bill's requirements, and specifically removes the authorization to enforce the bill through private lawsuits and removes the Attorney General's role in enforcing the bill.
Thank you, Stan, and thanks for all your work on it. And many thanks to Delegate Maricoon North, who also worked very closely with us to streamline the bill and get it to this place. So thank you, Delegate. Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, I support a lot of things that are, multiple language, like, for example, I supported the GED bill and things of that nature. I'm trying to understand, though, if you're eligible to vote, I'm not trying to be insensitive here, but isn't there, then you're a citizen, and then to be a citizen, you have to, speak some English. So I'm trying to understand, like, the need for, like, why would, I'm just trying, and this is a legitimate question. I'm not trying to sit here and throw a bomb, but, and maybe I don't understand the issue enough, but if you can vote, typically you can speak English. And so I'm just trying to understand the need for the bill. Or is there some carve out that I'm not familiar with?
I don't think that do you have to speak English to be a U.S. citizen? I'm not sure that is, or have to be fluent. The bill focuses in on limited English proficiency. And so if there's a jurisdiction where you have 2% or 4,000 eligible voting population that speaks a language other than English, and they're limited English proficient, which I'm almost certain, we can do a little research. I'm actually a naturalized citizen myself.
Yep.
but we can do a little bit of research around any English language requirements. But this is focused in on limited English proficient individuals. So I would definitely guess that you can become a citizen and be limited English proficient.
And,
But
and if I,
we do a little research. Oh, go ahead, Stan and Mr. Damaris.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, that the bill actually specifies its citizen voting age population that would have to meet those thresholds of 2% or 4,000 of speaking another language other than English and being limited English proficient, and that's the current standard. The Voting Rights Act also looks at citizen voting age population. They
well,
have different thresholds. And so, in other words, what I'm saying is that the census data shows and that there, in fact, are significant numbers of citizens who are limited English proficient and speak a language other than English, which is why Montgomery and Prince George's have to provide language assistance in Spanish currently, and other jurisdictions around the country do as well.
And I wasn't pushed back on the percentages or any of that. I was just trying to understand the limited English proficient piece is a piece I'm not very familiar with. I was just trying to get some clarity on that. So thank you for the answers. I appreciate it.
Right. And just to clarify for everyone, the people who would be using this, who are coming in to vote, would be U.S. citizens. The implementation is U.S. citizens who are of voting age for the state of Maryland and meet all those qualifications. So I just want to make sure I
Yeah, and I wasn't pushed back on any of that. I was just trying to understand that piece, and thank you for the answer. I understand now. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Delegate. Mr. Damaris.
I just wanted to mention that two jurisdictions right now have bilingual ballots, Montgomery and Prince George's. So it's to help them understand what is they're actually voting on. So there will be always the English component on it, but we have jurisdictions currently that need bilingual for assistance, so that to keep the voters with limited proficiency informed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Damaris. Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think this has sort of been addressed, but I just wanted to remind folks, we think about the ballot and we think about voting for candidates, but let's also remember ballot questions, right? And not to make a plug for a different bill, but we could simplify the language there, even for native English speakers, right? So if someone is not a native English speaker, those ballot questions would be even more, confusing or challenging. So I think this is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Feldmark. There is a bill under strong consideration that deals with that issue. And on crossover Friday, Saturday, and Monday, anything can happen. Delegate Fair.
Thank you. Just trying to understand the logistics of how this gets implemented. I'm reading at the bottom of page 6 of the amended version of the bill, and it outlines that the local board will participate in the program that the state board has set. It says that the state board will determine by utilizing, but I'm assuming the state board will take the census data and then communicate to the local board that they must do this? Is this a must participate if the state board sends them a notice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just getting that cleared up. Thank you.
And under a provision of the bill as well, SBE will post on their website, so it's public information, what counties will be under this language assistance program and what languages specifically. Delegate Roberts.
Just following up on the point that you just made. So is this and I haven't looked at is this going to be a requirement for all counties or just the ones who need it?
Just the ones that SBE determines.
Okay.
And that determination is made by looking at census data and other data that says that 2% of the citizen voting age population speaks a language other than English and are limited English proficient. And I should actually also mention that this is modeled after some federal government language requirements as well. So it's based on that. Delegate Fair.
Thank you so much for giving us time to flesh out these questions, Madam Chair. and these amendments. And with that, I would move favorable on the amendments, if that's okay with you.
Thank you so much for that.
Second.
All right, the amendments have been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendments to House Bill 983, please raise your hand or say aye. Okay, any opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 983 has been amended by the subcommittee. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Perfect.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Further discussion on HB 983 as amended. All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed? All right, seeing none, House Bill 983 moves forward favorable as amended. One more bill for today. House Bill 781, which has a wonderful sponsor. Election law, polling place procedures, voting by elderly voters and voters with disability. This bill has been amended. It requires SBE to establish guidelines for local boards of elections to implement a process to expedite voting for elderly voters and voters with disabilities at each early voting center and polling place. The local boards will have to implement based on these guidelines, and it requires that the training program for election judges include instruction on the guidelines for expediting voting for these voters. So this one focuses on elderly voters and voters with disability, expediting them when they come in to vote. Anything that I missed, Stan?
Don't.
No. Do you want to discuss the amendments separately, or?
I move favorable on the amendments.
Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Now, Stan, it sounds like you wanted to add on in terms of those amendments. You can go ahead.
Oh, I apologize. I just wanted to, I wasn't sure if that had already been covered. I apologize. It just removes a requirement that the local boards make immediate adjustments to the expedited voting process during election day and streamlines the language. Makes clarifying changes.
Yes, what I described was the bill as amended. I should have clarified that.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. I should have clarified. Okay, so is everyone clear? We have basically streamlined the bill so that this bill is now establishing guidelines. SBE will establish guidelines. The local boards will implement them for elderly voters and voters with disabilities to be expedited. We're on the amendment. Any further discussion? Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question is on the very end of the bill where the state board is issuing a report to the General Assembly with any challenges that they had with implementation and recommendations to improve the guidelines. And my question is, these are guidelines that the state board is establishing, correct? So I guess is the intent there that they would be sort of reporting on how they intend to update the guidelines to deal with those challenges? Is that the idea?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so they're not necessarily they're not recommendations that they're looking for the General Assembly to implement. It's just sort of what the upcoming
Yes.
revisions might be.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendments to House Bill 781, please say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? Seeing none, the ayes have it. House Bill 781, favorable with amendments. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any further discussion on House Bill 781 as amended? All right, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, House Bill 781 moves forward to full committee favorably as amended. If there is nothing else for the good of the order, we are adjourned.